I'm Amanda.
And I'm Mike. And
this is Saturday Morning Cereal. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Saturday Morning Cereal. I'm Amanda here with Mike, and today we have an incredibly special guest we will be talking to. He is a voice of our childhoods to a movie that not only means the world to Mike and I, but so many people out there.
That's right. You know him as the voice of Andy in Toy Story, Toy Story 2, and Toy Story 3. One thing I'd like to ask, Amanda, what does Toy Story mean to you?
Well, you know the answer to that, but for all of our viewers out there, Toy Story is one of the things I remember most of my childhood. I was 5 when it came out in 1995, and I was obsessed, especially with Woody at the time. I grew up with Andy and the toys, and that's why these movies mean so much to me. There's themes in those movies about friendship, love, and these toys have their own amazing personalities, yet they are extremely loyal to Andy and eventually Bonnie. It's why I love Jessie so much, and I identify with her to the core, but I digress. Mike, what does Toy Story mean to you?
Well, for a lot of kids, a lot of millennials growing up in the 90s, Toy Story was the first 3D movie I'd ever seen in 3D, meaning CGI, and it was just groundbreaking, and it really opened up my eyes to the possibility of animation going forward. And I just had a strong connection to the cast. You know, everyone knew Tom Hanks at the time, and I'd known him mostly from Big and Splash, and Turner and Hooch, and then Tim Allen from Home Improvement, and even the voice of Slinky Dog I knew as Jim Varney. I knew him as Ernest, the Ernest movies. So I just had a great connection with the cast, and it was great because Toy Story just continued to come out as I was growing up. And when I was 18 or 19 when the third movie came out, and it was just really about growing up, and it really hit home with me moving on to study animation myself and going off to college. So I'd grown up with Andy too.
So let us know what Toy Story means to you. And without further ado, it is my pleasure to welcome John Morris, the voice of Andy, to the podcast. All right, so John, thank you so much for being on here. We really appreciate you jumping on.
Happy to be here.
So tell us how you got into voice acting, especially at such a young age.
Yeah, so we need to go back in time to the early 90s. And I really started acting when I was 6 years old. And I took a workshop in San Francisco called Kids on Camera. And that was just kind of my first experience with on-camera acting and voiceover and audition technique and such. And there was a showcase at the end, and agents came, and I got an agent, and then I just started auditioning for things and booking things. And Toy Story was honestly like one of my first big voiceover projects. And so I really was just kind of in the right place at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you land the role of Andy in Toy Story, just besides being reached out by your agent? Was there any other process?
Yeah, so there was an open call to voice Andy, and they said to bring a toy to the audition. And I brought all my X-Men figures.
Oh,
So,
awesome.
a big box of like 30 X-Men figures. And my mom said, you have to pick one. And I said, no, this is one. And I'm bringing all of them.
It's X-Men, right?
Yeah, exactly. Not X. Yeah, exactly. And, I can't just bring like Professor X. No, I have to bring all of them. And so I brought all of them, and I just kind of like dumped them out on the floor and started playing with them in the audition. And, they later told me that they saw Andy in that because that's how Andy plays. And, I created all the voices and just, I definitely had like a very active imagination, just like Andy. And I think that kind of lent itself, well to voicing him. And then with, subsequent callbacks and things, I read from the script, and then they narrowed it down, and then I just was the lucky one.
That's so cool. Oh my goodness.
Thanks.
What is the most random thing you had to voice Andy for?
So it was random, but in a cool way. I got to voice Andy for Disney on Ice.
Oh,
And so I voiced Andy, and then I also got to sing You've Got a Friend in Me. And then my whole family went and we, saw the ice show and it was so awesome. And so that it was kind of a random thing to voice, but was really cool.
I always wondered if it was the original voice actors because I've seen the Toy Story Disney on Ices because I'm a huge Toy Story fan. So
Oh,
that's
yeah.
really neat. I didn't
Yeah,
know.
I think whenever possible, the goal is to get the original voice actor, but that being said, like Tom Hanks and others are very busy
Mhm.
and sometimes are not available, you know. And so yeah, I felt I loved doing that project and it was really fun.
Many people our age grew up with Andy, and Toy Story 3 felt very cathartic with him giving up his toys.
Hmm.
Can you tell us what your reaction was to getting a call from the directors and coming back to voice teenage Andy?
I was so excited. I was really excited. I was a little bit surprised just because so much time had passed. Um, but I was actually at college in college at the time at UCLA,
Oh, wow.
and I was in class and I picked up this voicemail at the after class, and it was that message. And I was so excited, and I just kind of
Wow.
instantly got my wheels turning like, "Oh my gosh, where are we in the story now?" And, "Oh, Andy's older," and then when I came back to voice him, he some time had passed and he was 17, and so it took a minute to kind of find his voice, like, okay, what does teenage Andy sound like, and what kind of teenager is he, and that was a fun process.
What do you think Andy went to college for?
That's such a good question, and so many fans have come up with such cool theories. Um, you know, he does have as I was saying, like, such a great imagination and sense of play, and so I think, he might have gone for like creative writing or directing, um, because that's kind of what he did with his toys in a way, like created stories and directed them, and but really it could go any number of ways.
Oh.
um,
So you
yeah.
were kind of in the same situation as Andy in Toy Story 3.
Absolutely. Yeah, I actually, because I was older when I voiced him, I was just out of college or in college. I that really benefited me cuz I could go back to that feeling of, okay, I have to pack up my room. I have to go through
Mhm.
all my toys. I have to go through all my things, and my teenage chapter is ending and my adult chapter is starting, and I could really draw on that experience.
It's so
So I
funny,
yeah.
yeah, how everybody like our ages just were in the same boat and Andy just like grew up with
Mhm.
us and it was just so incredible.
I think that's why everyone gets so emotional at the end of Toy Story 3,
Oh
because
yeah.
so many of us have lived that.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness, yes. Yeah. But yeah, what was it like working in the same film with actors such as like Tom Hanks, Tim Allen, Joan Cusack? I know you guys don't. It's very very rare for voice actors to record together. So I know you guys weren't really recording together, but like, did you guys get to like connect at all, or?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. We recorded individually, but that being said, sometimes our sessions would be booked back to back. So there were times when I'd be leaving the studio and then Laurie Metcalf would be coming in, and so we could chat for a moment as Andy and Andy's mom, which was nice.
Aw.
And then at the premieres is when, we all would gather and take a big group photo and talk with each other. And those are always really, really fun and kind of surreal, in that we're all getting together and see the finished film for the first time.
Mhm.
So, besides Andy, where else might our audience have heard your voice?
So I also voiced Santa Boy in The Nightmare Before Christmas. And
Oh,
so he's the little guy where, Jack Skeleton lands on the roof, and then he jolts out of bed, "Santa, Santa," and runs down the stairs. And then, "What did Santa bring you, honey?" And he lifts up the head, and the parents scream. So I voiced that character, and um, and that was really fun to work on Nightmare Before Christmas. And I also did additional voices for that. And then I voiced Pepper in Lego Island, which some people know about that game. And and then I've done a lot of smaller projects and commercials and things like that. But those are my kind of three main roles, I guess.
Mhm. Oh, cool. I did not know you were the voice in Nightmare Before Christmas. That is amazing. I'm gonna have to watch that now, like again, right after this.
Yes, I actually was just at an event yesterday, and it- people had a similar response. They know me more for Andy, and then they also, saw some photos on my table of Santa Boy. It's like, oh my gosh, you voiced him? I did.
That's incredible. Oh my goodness. So for those wanting to pursue a career in voice acting, do you
hmm
have any advice for them?
Yes. So I would say to first of all explore what your voice can do. So just creatively, like, pick up books and magazines and text, and just like see what kind of voices you can create. And then if people are really serious about it, take a class, take a workshop, put together a demo, and then send those to agents. And agents can represent you and start sending you out on projects. I mean, if you want to go all the way with that. I lead voiceover workshops and do voiceover coaching too. So it's a really, really fun field and world to get into.
So in the Toy Story movies, we see Andy struggle with favoritism between Buzz and Woody.
Yes.
Who is your personal favorite Toy Story character?
Oh, it's always hard to answer this question because, really each toy is special. That being said, I think I do have a special place in my heart for Woody because he's the original. He's the first one on Andy's bed. He's kind of Andy's first favorite toy. Um, and I remember that feeling growing up.
Hmm.
And so I guess if I had to pick, I'd pick Woody.
I knew that was going to be the answer. Tell Woody. Who's your favorite, Mike?
Probably Slinky Dog.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and I had a Slinky Dog, and then I had a Mike. And my name is Mike, so I loved Mike as well. The tape.
Naturally, yes.
Yeah,
Amanda's a big fan of Jesse.
I'm a huge fan of Jesse. That's got
Oh,
everything in
yeah.
mine.
Of course. I mean, those are great choices. And then, the list goes on. They're
Oh
all
yeah.
they're all so special. Yeah.
I had my rabbit passed away not too long ago, but his name was Rex, and he was very
Oh,
aptly named because he was a very like curious but cautious boy.
yes. Yes. A little nervous. Oh.
So you mentioned that you brought your favorite X-Men toys to your audition.
hmm
Were those your favorite childhood toys, or do you have a specific childhood toy that you just absolutely loved and maybe you still have?
So I still definitely have my X-Men figures, and I also really liked Ninja Turtles. Um I would say I did have this toy called My Buddy, and this is like a 1980s, 19 early 1990s toy, but basically he just was like, um he must be like have been like 2 feet tall or something, and he's just like a boy, and you bring him around, and he was just like my best friend, and I brought him everywhere.
Oh.
Um, and I think there's a commercial for it, like My Buddy and Me or something. But my buddy really did come everywhere with me for a few years.
Oh.
Um, and I unfortunately don't think I still have My Buddy, but have to maybe try to find another one.
So, John, you mentioned being a big fan of Ninja Turtles and X Men. So, I want to
hmm
know if you were to be cast in a Turtles movie or an X Men show, who would you want to play?
Oh, good question. Um, So I'd love to be any of the turtles because they're all cool. um, X-Men. Wow. I think I'd probably, when I'm a little bit older, I'd want to voice Professor X because that would be really cool. Um, and I also would love to voice Wolverine.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I'd have to get into my like kind of gruff textured voice for that one, but yeah.
Any Ninja Turtles good?
Yeah, I think so
I love
because
all
I really do like them all the same, and um I know they're a little bit different from each other, but I'd pick any Ninja Turtle.
So, do you have any projects planned for the future? I know with the announcement of like Toy Story 5 or whatever, I know there's some theories out there like, will we ever see Andy in the future, like a married man?
Yes, and I've heard so many amazing theories from fans about what Toy Story 5 will hold for all of us. Um, so yes, Toy Story 5 has been announced. It is happening. Honestly can't say anything more at this point because it was just announced in February. Um, I was just cast in a big project, and I am voicing a lead in that. I wish I could say more about it, but I can't. But I am very excited about that, and it has kind of like a post-apocalyptic theme to it, and it's in that genre.
Oh,
So I am really excited about that project,
sounds
and so
really
that should be out in probably 6 months to a year.
well. We're really excited to see you in the future here.
Thank
That's
you.
right up my alley.
Yeah,
So
it's an interesting genre for sure.
yeah.
Hmm.
Well, John, that about wraps it up with our questions. Thank you so much for coming on, and it was just such a huge pleasure to talk to you. Like I said, you were the voice of mine, Mike's, and pretty much all of our childhoods.
Thank you so much. Yeah, this has been really great, and thank you for your great questions, and really nice to talk with you.
Yeah. And where can our viewers find you?
So they can find me on Instagram. My handle is at John Charles Morris, and also I'm on Cameo. And Cameo is really fun because they can ask for video shout outs for them or someone important to them in their lives, for their birthday or graduation or really anything. And so people should look for me there.
Awesome. You know what? It is a little, I don't know if it's late for graduation, but if you have a child going to college, like, come on, hit up John.
Yes, that's right. Andy could give them a message.
Yes.
A message for college.
All right. And we thank you guys for tuning in, and we will talk to you next time.